Ethereum appears to be recovering from a recent 7% pullback. Are we likely to see more pullbacks, or is this quest for all-time highs going to continue to the upside? In today's episode, we're going to look at the latest Ethereum news as well as Ethereum chart analysis to see exactly where Ethereum is headed in the next hours and days. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of the latest happening in Ethereum as well as Cardano and other altcoins. Without further ado then, let's jump into our first piece of news. Okay, so first of all, the first piece of news over on beingcrypto.com, probably the most exciting piece of news. As we know, Ethereum has been struggling with gas fees over the last few months, and this has made it very difficult for people to get into Ethereum because, people are paying potentially $100, $200 per Ethereum trade when maybe they only want to trade a couple of $100 and, making up a huge percentage of their actual trading amount. So recently there was the Berlin hard fork, which was aimed at reducing the cost of Ethereum transactions, and it appears to have worked. Okay, so Ethereum throughput skyrockets after gas limit adjustment. Okay, so it's showing that there's even more, the speed has increased and it's doing great things. Okay, so Ethereum blockchain hits record of 16.5 transactions per second. Average gas prices fall to single figures as smart contract holdings surge to exchange outflow continues. Okay, so that's really exciting. As exchanges are outflowing, obviously supply becomes less and less. And when we come on to the piece of news, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, which is super exciting, it's going to show why Ethereum is in a really great position right now and why we've seen that massive surge in price. And I think, in my eyes, we're likely to see this price surge continue for some months now, with more huge news yet to come. Okay, over on the Business Times, this will knock you out. Ether will top $5,000 next week, according to an expert. Now, I've seen a lot of hype about this recently. Ethereum is going to go to 5,000, 10,000, 27,000, etc. I don't believe that's wrong, and in the coming months, I'm sure that we're going to see some obviously very exciting prices. Now, what I want to point out is actually once we get into price discovery mode, it does tend to just be sort of speculation on what people are believing. And yet, it could reach $5,000 next week, but it also could take a bit of a dip if we see something like happened this morning, where we got around $1.3 billion liquidated, and that obviously dragged the price down. And if that happens again, it could be a bigger fall, because obviously the faster it goes up, the faster it can come down. Okay, so always be careful, when people are sort of saying this, look at where they're kind of actually taking that information from. A lot of it appears to have just sort of been plucked out of thin air, speculation prices. If you look at charts, they don't necessarily show you, once you go into price discovery, targets beyond certain areas. Okay, you can sort of speculate on where they might be, but in reality, it's very difficult to sort of speculate on exact prices. And going off of what maybe a Bitcoin did in 2017, it's kind of a different project, it's a different time, there's lots of other factors going on. So always take sort of things you hear online, maybe sometimes with a bit of a pinch of salt, unless they're kind of giving you true evidence and back up their claims. So this is a really exciting piece of news over on Crypto Ticker, and this is, obviously we're heading towards the EIP 1559 or Ethereum Improvement Program, which is due to roll out in July, and that's going to start to make Ethereum into a deflationary asset. So later on this year, we're going to have the EIP, or the Ethereum Improvement Program 1559, which is going to bring up a lot of value, in my opinion. There's a number of different things that it's going to do, but the main thing is the burning of gas fees and reduction of the amount of Ethereum, turning it from an inflationary asset, which it is at the moment, to a deflationary asset, where each year there's less and less Ethereum available in the overall market, which is obviously reducing the amount of supply, which obviously therefore, if the demand remains high, then the overall market price is going to be higher. Obviously, you've got the market cap, which is divided up into the number of coins available, and hence each coin is representative of the part of that market cap it represents. So if you reduce the amount of coins and the market cap remains the same, obviously the price is going to start increasing. Twitter-based analyst Squish Chaos has published an intriguing report which shows that Ethereum selling pressure is going to reduce by as much as 90%, the equivalent of 3 Bitcoin halvings in a short time of a year. So obviously, every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin entering the market is decreased by half as the reward for mining is halved. And this tends to be the sort of the spark or the catalyst that gets the bull cycles going. So if they have 3 halvings in the space of around 12 months, then obviously, that's going to have a huge impact on the price. Okay, so the analyst claims that there are many underestimating the effect of upcoming Ethereum upgrades on the price of its token. He expects to attain a price target of 30,000 to 50,000 and an astronomical 150,000 in extreme mania speculation peak by 2023. The 79-page detailed report, complete with the introduction, can be found here, which I'll leave a link for in the description if you want to go and check that out. Might be an interesting read. But again, we've got some pretty insane prices, and don't get me wrong, I would love this to happen, but always be careful. Don't always just read and see what's going on, and don't find yourself speculating too much. Always go with what's sort of happening, and never risk more money than you can afford to lose, because things can always move in opposite directions from what you expect. Without further ado then, let's jump into the charts and check out what's going on in Ethereum. So this is on Ethereum US dollar. So as you can see, the price currently around 3,329. Earlier on this morning, we had this big drop where we hit the peak of around 3,461, and we came all the way down to this level here briefly, which was around 8% drop, which may have felt quite big depending on when you got in, but actually that's nothing too outrageous. In terms of crypto space, quite often we see things like this, and actually if you're in at 1x leverage, that's never too scary. If you go in and leverage your positions, then I'm sure maybe moves like this can end up scaring you quite a lot more than they should. So maybe don't over leverage yourself, which happens sometimes when we over leverage ourselves, and should always be something we learn from. Now what I want to draw your attention to is on the 15-minute, this diamond pattern here, which obviously have this back here and then this other side coming through. Now I know it's kind of a lower time frame, and I don't tend to like to look so much at the lower time frames, but it's always worth kind of like zooming out first and moving back in. I've just done it slightly different way around today. What usually plays out with these diamond patterns is that we're likely to see a breakout, which is going to come probably in this sort of period here, and they potentially can break to either side. At the moment, as you can see, it's been rejected on the bottom side, and the price targets will take us to the height of the triangle, or sorry, the height of the middle of the apex, I guess you'd call it. From here, if it was to turn and break to the downside, then I think we'll still hold above the $3,000 level, which wouldn't necessarily mean that this is guaranteed to sort of fall further and further. As you can see, I've got the other line following down because it seems to have been hitting off of this as it's been moving down this morning. However, as you can see, it's taken a big bounce here. So before we sort of enter our trades or speculate exactly what's going to happen, we need it to break out to confirm what's actually happening. As we know in the past, it will break out, usually come back and retest before moving to the downside. The reason you wait for it to come back to the downside is because if you go back to the sort of areas like here, it's broken out, but it never came all the way back and retested. It went straight back inside, and it retested as support. And again, up here, it kind of did break out a little bit, but until it breaks out and retests on those lines, you can't tell whether it's actually going to be breaking out fully or whether it's just a fake out. However, due to the fact we're nearing the end of completion here, it's likely that we'll move probably up to the upside here. And in my opinion, because of this way that we've seen this big bounce, we're going to be recovering probably to the upside. And this, if it breaks out, assuming it will break out somewhere around here, would take us up to 3,641, which, as you know, would be another new all-time high. From its current price, that would be another 9.6%. Wouldn't necessarily happen instantly, but the speed at which it went up yesterday was something to be aware of. Jumping out onto the 4 hour, as you can see, we're still sort of remaining within this kind of parabolic kind of move here, and actually what we're seeing developing in this area could almost be kind of moving into a bull flag or bull pennant type shape. We may see a bit more sideways movement. Obviously, once it breaks out of that diamond, perhaps we'll see a bit more of an upside, and where we might break up to here before kind of playing a bit more sideways. However, once you do break out of a parabolic move, then quite often we do actually see it have to take a break to the downside. Okay, so I think in reality it's going to have to continue to be moving up fairly sharply to avoid somewhat of a correction, and if we do have a correction, then it could be a fairly reasonable correction, bearing in mind that the price now has moved up pretty fast, over around $1,000, because it moved around 30% in the space of just a few days, so that's actually quite a big increase. Don't be surprised if we could see a bit of a retrace. In my opinion, as everyone's in this kind of euphoria stage, always something that we should be aware of. When you hear people talking about Ethereum who you never thought you'd hear talking about it, then it's something that you should be aware of, because when everyone hears about it, it does tend to mean that it could be due a correction. Don't be afraid to take profits along the way, selling when it's high and buying when it's low, not just waiting till it's high, buying more and then waiting till it drops and then selling, which might sound stupid, but it is definitely what people end up doing because it's the way the markets work and they're designed to trap people like this. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, then please hit that like button. It really helps me get this video out and spread the content to more people. If you're new to the channel and you haven't already, then make sure you hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all the latest Ethereum news happening out there. Thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, and I will see you again next time with another video. Bye bye.